other little issues or anything like that. But yeah, man, I appreciate you stepping in my call of desperation.
Yeah, man, no problem. I wasn't doing anything tonight anyway, so.
Perfect. Yeah, there's just some weeks where I realize that oh crap, I forgot to record a show or schedule anybody to record a show. So
Oh yeah.
it happens.
Oh yeah, it happens every day.
Yeah. Where are you from?
Originally, I'm from just outside of Philadelphia. I live in like just outside Raleigh, North Carolina now.
Oh, okay. Oh, Raleigh.
Uh, yeah, good little
What do
area.
you do?
I'm like 15 minutes outside of Raleigh, so I like it.
Yeah, Raleigh's a cool little area. I haven't really spent any time there, but I've been through it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of stuff to do, and I got a bunch of buddies from college around here to hang out with and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, that makes it fun.
oh
How'd
yeah.
you land in Raleigh?
So I went to ECU for a couple years, East Carolina, which is like an hour east of Raleigh. And I always liked it down here, but I wasn't the biggest fan of going to college. So I went back home, worked for a little while, but I was always like, I kind of want to move back down here. So all my buddies had graduated by then, so they were kind of all around Raleigh. So it was either like Raleigh or Charlotte. I just chose Raleigh because it was a little easier of a drive to, go home for the holidays and stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So what do you do in Raleigh?
So I'm a grade foreman for Flatiron Construction, currently widening I-95.
Ooh,
Yeah, so
that's a big
it's been
job.
yeah, it's like a little over 9 miles. So I think a $300 million job or something close to it.
Yeah, I think I saw that one in I think I saw that job in like one of the newsletters I get that is always highlighting big civil jobs.
Yeah, we've been on it for like they started moving dirt last March, about right when I started there. So like a year and a half now. But it's been going, I guess not too bad.
Yeah. So you're a grade foreman, huh?
Yeah,
And how old are
yeah,
you?
been doing 31,
Yeah. How long you been doing it?
10 years, about like 9, 10 years.
How long have you been grade foreman?
Oh, May of this year.
Really?
So, a couple, like 4 or 5 months now.
Damn. That's cool, man.
Yeah, it's different than, being in a machine for 10, 11 hours a day, but it took some getting used to because sometimes you just wanted to, get in the machine yourself and do it. And you kind of got to realize that's not your job necessarily anymore, or not your job all the time. You got to be doing other things and looking at a bigger picture. But,
Yeah. How many
but no, it's
machines
been
do you put on a $300 million job?
so right now we have 6 or 7 dozers, I think, probably about the same amount of excavators, a couple wheel loaders. We've got one grader right now. I think we're getting a second one this week or next week. They've got two bigger crawler cranes, I think like 200-ton cranes, and then one rough terrain crane. Um, right now it's kind of, I mean, if we had more manpower, they'd probably get some more equipment out there, but there's no sense of, getting something just to sit really. So
Right.
like everybody, the labor, I won't say a complete labor shortage, but you know, everybody's definitely always looking for more people and competing for the same people.
Yeah, you could definitely use 5, 10, 15 more guys, I'm sure.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
but you you make do with what you got. But we're moving along pretty good this year. We got a bunch of stuff getting under stone, so we can pave. They can pave kind of year round down here, so hopefully get some stuff painted black before long.
Yeah, painted black, baby. That's the good
Yep.
stuff.
Oh yeah. So they're looking at, I think, starting to pave some next week, and then just keep on rolling. So,
That's
but
awesome,
it's
man. So how did you get into that grade foreman role, especially at 31? Because I feel like most people who even know how to run a motor grader are twice that age.
so I guess the beginning of this year they had kind of asked me, kind of hinted at it a little bit, Because we were doing, I guess, I don't want to say it was specialized, but it was just like rock embankment through some of the swamps on our job, essentially to, build somewhat of a solid bottom. And they were trying to get another grade crew going, and they asked me kind of about it, like would I be interested in doing the rest of them, kind of and running it. And they didn't really say like, hey, we're gonna make you a foreman, but they wanted me to essentially run a crew, and I was like, they kept asking me about it, and they would kind of, I wouldn't hear about it, and finally I was just kind of like, hey, what's the deal? And that's kind of when they brought it up to me. So,
Nice, man.
um, but yeah, it's been good so far. I got some good people around me.
Yeah, that's where it matters, right?
Yeah, there's a couple. I mean, my foreman before I got promoted, and then both the superintendents, all the people in the office, all our engineers and stuff like that. There's some pretty smart people in there. If you ever have any questions, so
Yeah. How many people work for the company you work for?
on our job, there's probably I would say between like all the engineers and everything, 60 to 70 right now, between structures, grade, and then we have two pipe crews. We sub out some of our pipe and stuff like that. But I know Flatiron as a company, there's 3,000 between, because they work in the U.S. and Canada. So
Mm,
between all their offices, I think there's about 3,000, give or take.
damn, that's huge.
Yeah, yeah, they do some pretty cool stuff, especially with like if you're a bridge person or stuff like that, or like pouring a lot of concrete. They do some pretty wild bridges, dams. They do a lot of like big slip form paving for airports and stuff like that. So and then they're in North Carolina, especially right now, they're starting to get more into the dirt work side of building highways and not just doing the bridges and stuff like that. So
Wow. Yeah, that's a
yeah,
lot of freaking people, man.
oh yeah, they got. I mean, they keep us pretty busy in North Carolina. We just got another pretty big highway job. It's a brand new bypass through the woods, so brand new highway, nothing before that. So they're getting ready to start, doing survey on that, and probably be rolling on that next summer or something like that.
North Carolina's booming, dude.
Yeah, there is between, I mean, Raleigh, Charlotte, and then even like a lot of the, smaller towns are still, there's people. I mean, even the town that I lived in when I moved here, I bought my house in 2018, I think, and there was maybe 9,000 people, and I think there's like 15, 16,000 right now here, and I'm just, I'm a little like, map dot town, 15 minutes outside Raleigh, so.
Dang, man, that's so it's like doubled in size in the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, they're building, everywhere you see there's, just building more neighborhoods or it's not even really houses anymore. It's a lot more like apartments and townhomes and stuff like that. And they're just, putting the people. I mean, it's kind of nice in some respects because we get more, like restaurants and stuff like that and stuff to do out here. Because when I first moved out here, there was not much to do. There wasn't even like a brewery or really a bar in town. So, it brings some nice stuff to town, but it also brings a lot more people.
Yeah. Man, that's a lot of growth. I knew that North Carolina was booming, but I didn't know it was booming like that because it seems like any contractor I know that's in that market, they're like, oh, dude, we're booming. And like I've even talked to other contractors that are putting an office or putting crews in that market because there's just so much work over that way right now that it's just, there's a lot going on.
Oh yeah, I mean we've seen recently. I've seen Kiewit start to see their trucks around more. I know they've bid a little more work in here recently. I think they're doing some work at the airport right now. And then like a lot of these big highway jobs are JV jobs with like a local contractor and more of like a national contractor. Like our job's technically a JV job and it's with a more local company, but we do most of the work and they're doing all the pay like just the paving and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But
Wow.
yeah, there especially the road work, highway work right now is just the state's putting out so much work right now that it's pretty wild how much is out there.
Yeah, sounds like it, man. That's insane. I mean, you think about it like a $300 million job. Where I'm at in Oklahoma, our budget every year is like 500 million. So
Yeah, so I know so from like where 95 and I-40 come together, it's about 40 minutes east of Raleigh. That's where our job starts at, and it goes 9 whatever miles south. That's $300 million. Then there was a 19-mile job that they're getting ready to finish probably next year. I think that was 430 some $million. And then Weber out of Texas, just south of that, has another 9-mile section. And then I think we have one or two more sections further south of that are another like 9 or 10 miles.
Wow.
And so it's pretty much one work zone all the way to South Carolina, minus like little bits and pieces.
That's insane.
And that's just 95. That's not even out towards Charlotte where there's a ton of work going on out there too. So
yeah, I'm sure that they're just rapidly trying to build to accommodate all the people.
Oh yeah, I mean, and I think it's like where I grew up in just outside of Philly. When I moved there, we were like, I think when I first started going to grade school, there was maybe 100 kids in my class, and by the time I graduated, I think I graduated with like almost 400 kids from high school.
Wow.
I remember because they were just building everywhere, and the last thing people think about are building up your roads and all that stuff until it's almost too late, and then you're scrambling just to try and widen roads to accommodate all your extra traffic and stuff like that.
Yeah, they're just doing it rapidly, and then by the time they get done, it's going to be time to like do it again and just keep widening.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you even see it down here. Like a lot of the bridges, when they build them, they'll already build the bridge to accommodate another lane. So even like you'll see the road going up as a 3-lane road, and then the bridge will jut out to where it's 4 lanes. But they're obviously whenever they widen it, they don't have to build the bridge again. They just put that 4th lane and run with it. But
yeah, that's cool.
It's North Carolina is and then even like residential, and there's some huge commercial jobs out towards like Greensboro and stuff like that. Like Ames had that big job that I know Aaron Witt was at last year out towards Greensboro. D.H. Griffin had a massive job. I think my buddy said they moved like 4 million yards on it last year, where I think it's a battery plant for Toyota, and it's all mostly just rock. And he's got a 1250 out there, an 800, and then a bunch of just 349s and stuff like that. But
wow,
I watch his videos on Snapchat every day. And I'm like, damn man, it's kind of nice. And then, but yeah,
you're on no small job yourself.
No, it's just different though, because I mean, we are moving like a decent amount of dirt. I think it's like 1.2 million yards is what our job called for, but we have to do it, within the confines of a highway. So you don't really have, you're never really going to have anything bigger than like a, like we have a D71 out there. We've got a 750 John Deere right now, but that's about to we're getting 2 D6Ks to swap out for it. Mainly just because we're having a bunch of TopCon issues, but you don't really have like 8s, 10s out there running around unless you're blowing a highway through brand new wood. So
yeah,
to see some of that bigger iron is kind of cool. And the guy who's doing it, I think he's my age or a little bit younger, so
that's cool.
Cool to see another young dude out there getting it too.
Are you going to be on that brand new highway?
I'm pushing for it. I've already kind of put my name in there because it's 15 minutes from my house.
Oh,
so
nice.
I always jokingly say to him, I say, I'll quit and reapply just so I can get on that job. But I've already kind of hinted at it. I was like, if I could, I'd really appreciate going to it just because, it's so close to the house.
Dude, that's like my goal is to be on a big job like that. Cause like I talked to, my day job is, project management estimating for a paving company. And I talked to my boss and he'll tell me about like the 70s and 80s around here, just blowing and going, building brand new roads out of farmland and woods and putting in all this brand new stuff. And, now it's just rebuilds and maintenance. And if you do anything brand new, it's like, half a mile. It's nothing crazy. I'd love to be on a job like that where you're just blowing and going, just big shit, just moving dirt and building something brand new from scratch.
Yeah, because it's so around Raleigh, it's called 540, and they built half of it, I think, in like the early 2000s or something like that. And then they've released 2 more phases of it. I think it was like 20 some miles total, and it was actually Flatiron had part of it with Branch Civil out of Virginia, and then Lane and Blythe had another part of it. And then they just released the last 2. Well, they released 1 phase of it just now that we got with the same company that we're doing 95 with, and then the last little bit gets released in like 2 weeks, so we'll see who gets that.
That's
But
cool.
that'll be, yeah, so that'll probably be one of the last big, new highways for a little bit at least out here.
Yeah. Yeah. That'd be neat to
But
be on a job like that because, you know, 20, 30, 40 years from now, you'll be able to look back and be one of those old guys who's like, I remember whenever I used to hunt down in them woods right there, and now it's a
oh
highway.
yeah, oh no, I remember even like some of the stuff when I moved down here to see what it is, because like the first highway job I was on out here, I remember when the company started it before I even worked for them, and it was just a 2-lane highway, always backed up, slammed full of traffic every day, and now it's going to be like 6 lanes to 4 lanes each way, and they're getting ready to get one done, that one too. So to see that one kind of done, and you spent some time, a little over a year out there helping build that one. So to see that one kind of them starting to finish that, and some of the stuff you did, like I had 2 big fills I did for a bridge, and to see that bridge all done now and traffic going over, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. It's so cool too, because when you're working on it, it looks like a different world, especially like when you're building something brand new. Like it doesn't even look like a everyday thing. Like it looks like there's one near me where they're realigning the highway. And if you drive through it, you feel like you're driving through like Jurassic Park or something. Cause they are, I mean, even though the highway's here, they're building a new one just straighter, kind of like a couple 100 feet over. And
Yeah.
it's like you're driving through Jurassic Park or some crazy thing. There's like mountains of rock and dirt that were not there a couple
Hmm.
years ago. And now but whenever it's done, you're going to drive through and it's just going to feel normal. You're just not even going to notice it.
Oh yeah, there's definitely a process to it, and the old saying of why does road work take so long, or why does it take so long to build a highway? And I don't think people realize a lot of the stuff that goes into building a highway, and just because they say it's going to be 4 years, that's before you put a bucket into the ground and you start finding all sorts of fun stuff and all sorts of problems and stuff like that, and every little delay just adds up and adds up.
Yeah. That's before the sky just opens up for 2 weeks, 3 weeks at a time. And then it takes a month to dry out to get back working. And it's crazy.
Oh yeah, North Carolina is very well known for the summer, like inch and a half, 2 inch, and 30-minute downpours. It's like the whole South is pretty much. So you'll just be fine all day, and then it'll dump 2 inches of rain on you at 4:30 in the afternoon, and you see everybody about 4 o'clock flying around with smooth drum rollers, just trying to get dirt sealed off and stuff like that. And then it falls a flood, and then by the next morning it's dry again. You can go back to moving dirt.
Oh, nice.
But I remember I've done a few ditches out there, and they were big, flat bottom ditches, and then it would fall flood at the end of the day. I think one day it rained 3.5 inches on it when I finished the section, and then I got a picture from my buddy, and the water was over top of the silt fence. It had rained so much. And then I finished the other section about a week later, and that flooded the same day as soon as I got done that, about to the top of the silt fence. So it's North Carolina weather down here is very trying,
Hmm.
with their downpours, and especially where we're at, we got some red clay that can get very nasty when it gets wet.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all we have here. So we get those big rains and it does not dry out the next day.
Yeah, the job I'm on right now, we've got some sand or like a sandier clay, so it's a little bit better. But like where I live at, it's all mostly red clay, and if it rains, it's just that red, just beautiful red colored water just going everywhere.
Oh, yeah. And it gets all over your truck. And God forbid you drive through it, even with 4-wheel drive and mud tires, because you will get stuck and your
Oh yeah,
boots and can't get it off. Oh, yeah.
I got what we call ABC, but like road base, just that nice little stone tin on my truck. I had to wash off today just because it rained all morning and we were just doing a little bit of stuff. So just driving on it for 5 minutes, and you got that nice stone tint to your black truck pretty much.
Yeah. I was on a job with that stuff. It's probably been 2 years, but we completely removed and rebuilt the road. And I have a gray truck, and I drove it down there after a rain, and then it just kept raining. So I didn't wash it, but I should have. And I parked it in my driveway. And the next day I came out and my whole driveway was just red freaking clods of mud everywhere. It took weeks for it to wash off.
Oh yeah. When I go to like the do-it-yourself car wash up here, I put an extra little bit of money there because I have to wash the bay out when I get done because there's just chunks of like red dirt everywhere. And I'll wash my truck twice a week, and it still looks like a bomb went off just from all the dust and all that good stuff of between that and all the mud and that fun stuff. But
Nah, that's
it
what
is what
trucks
it
are
is.
for.
Yeah, it makes me money, so that's all I care about.
Yep, that's it. So how'd you get into the industry?
I was kind of always just interested in it ever since I was a little kid. I always thought equipment was cool, just watching it growing up, and then it was kind of always what I wanted to do. I went to college for 2 years, did construction management, but didn't really like it as far as like the way I was being taught, I guess. As far as I told him, I said, I want to move dirt, put pipe in the ground, build highways, and you're taking classes on like vertical construction and like interior residential construction. I was like, this is not what I want to do. So 2 years into that, I just said, I'm just going to stop. And I just started as a laborer. I was on the pipe crew for about 2 years. Went from was a top man for a couple of weeks, just grabbing people. Hey, go grab me this. You grabbed the wrong thing 3 times, and then the pipe layer and the home man couldn't get along. So then one day it was, hey, go down in the ditch. So then I learned to be a pipe layer, and then when they had the split crews, kind of was a pipe layer also to run the loader. So got pretty well into that. And then when I moved to North Carolina, I started doing more grade work and just kind of stuck more on the grade side after that.
Hmm.
Mostly running, I would say most of the time now. Before I got promoted, I'd run a dozer most of the time, but it's been a fun path for the last 9 or 10 years. I've enjoyed it.
So you didn't even really work in the industry till you were like 18, 19, 20 years old?
I did a little landscaping before that, like in high school and stuff like that, while I was in college in the summers. But then, like once I stopped going to school, I think I did landscaping for like one more summer, and then just said I didn't. I was good at it. I could make money doing it, but I didn't enjoy it. Like
Yeah.
so I was just finally one day I was like, what, screw it, just sold everything I had and just went to work for somebody else as just kind of the new guy, low man on the totem pole, and just started going from there. Just
Hmm.
trying to learn everything I could.
Same company?
No, I started with a company in Pennsylvania. My parents' friends actually knew the owner, so they kind of got me in there with him, and then just worked for him. Then ended up just wanting to move to North Carolina. Came down here, worked for a guy I knew through Chris Coons, guy who's got Let's Dig 18. So
Yeah.
worked for his buddy. Then ended up working for Chris's uncle and Chris for about almost 2 years. Uh, then went to the first big, I guess, bigger company I ever really worked for. First big highway job. Did that for about a year and a half. Just running a dozer for them mostly. It's pretty much what I did every day. Then went and did a little like commercial Mass X and stuff like that for about 10 months. And then my buddy went to Flatiron when they started 95 and said, hey, you want to come down here and run a dozer for me? And I was like, let's go. So I went down and started working for them and been
Hmm.
there for a year and a half now, something like that.
Nice. So you've just kind of progressed pretty gradually, huh?
Yeah, just kind of, I've always had some good people that have taught me stuff ever since I started. So, just try to retain what they teach you and, learn it and use that as, I guess, building blocks to get to where you want to go eventually. And just, keep progressing. I wasn't, and I guess it's never to knock people, but I didn't want to stay an operator forever. My joke was I always wanted to have a back by the time I was 40 and not be, slamming around in a dozer for 10, 11 hours a day. And, I wanted to do more than just, run equipment. So I just tried to, everyone who ever taught me was willing to teach me something. I just tried to learn every little bit I could from them.
Yeah, that's what you got to do. And those guys will teach you if you're willing to learn and willing to ask questions.
Yeah, I mean, if you put in the effort too, and they see, you're willing to work and stuff like that, I think the old guys always have a bad reputation of being kind of, hard asses and stuff like that and kind of a-holes to everybody. And, most of them just they have an expectation of people to work hard. I think if they see you work hard, they'll teach you everything that they've learned over, the time they've been doing it. But if they
Yeah.
see you kind of, just, standing there, on your phone, not really putting in any effort, they're probably not, they're not going to teach you much. They're probably going to ride you a little bit to, try and get more out of you. But I think some people just, as soon as somebody gets on them, they just get all defensive and say, oh, that person's an asshole or this, that, or the other. And it's really just like, no, it's just, you got a job to do it.
Yeah. Yeah,
But,
that's exactly right. Yeah,
but
I
I
mean
mean,
that's just how you got to learn, man. You just start somewhere, and that's cool that you're saying you did your own thing for a little while, and then I think it's important to note that you were doing stuff, and then you're like, this ain't my gig, and instead of just grinding through it, like you didn't just quit. It was just, this isn't my gig. Like college, you're saying, yeah, I'll go to college, and then you went, and most people at 2 years would have been like, man, I just got to stick it out 2 more years, but you were like, fuck it. I mean, what? Sure. At the end of the day, I mean, I got a construction management degree, and at the end of the day, it's like you're saying, I'm learning about building stuff. Like, did it really help me in the roadwork game? No. I mean, not really. It would have been more beneficial for me to just go work on a crew for 2 years straight. But you said, nah, I'm going to go do something else. Then you did your landscape, and you're like, I'll go be low man on somebody's totem pole and just work up from there.
yeah, I mean, I was never really worried about, I guess, learning it. I picked up on a bunch of the landscape and stuff, fairly easy. And I knew I could, have a decent work ethic to where I wasn't gonna, just be like lollygagging and stuff like that. So I figured, it wouldn't be, not saying it was easy, but like it wasn't going to be something that was going to be like arduous to, progress up or get to where I wanted to be eventually. So I just figured, and I was still young. I think I was 21 at the time or something like that. So I was just like, you know what, screw it. Now's the time to do it while I'm young. And, like I said, I got in with the first guy I worked for. He had a few good guys that worked for him, had done it for, they both have been probably doing it 20 some years. And then, we did a little bit of everything that, I was mostly on a pipe crew, but we did a little bit of grade work, a little bit of paving. We had like a little Leeboy 8515 or whatever paver. So we did like some small parking lots. So that was just kind of, you learned a bunch of stuff just by doing a bunch of stuff. And then, when I worked for Chris, we did, you'd go from doing a driveway to clearing for a 6-7 acre pond and then building that pond. Then you'd go do a little half day driveway the next week or something like that. So that was always, always something new to do there. So it was just, I guess I got a sampling of a bunch of different types of work pretty early on and kind of figured out what I liked and what I didn't like and was able to learn a bunch of different stuff, I guess fairly quickly.
Yeah, and that's what I tell a lot of kids right now that are not sure what they want to do, whether it's college or not. Even kids that are still in high school, I just try to tell them, like, go do a bunch of stuff or work for somebody who does a bunch of stuff. Because if you work for just like a general contractor and you get experience doing carpentry and sheetrock and a little bit of plumbing, a little bit of electrical, like you can kind of learn what you want. If you go work for a guy that, he's just got a little dirt moving business and he does a little bit of everything, then you can learn kind of what you want to do or just get different jobs for different people throughout your summers. And it's 3 months. It's no commitment. It's just a trial you get paid for. So try it out.
I was gonna say, I mean, if you think you may like something, go try it for, a year or 6 months right out of high school. And instead of going to school for, college for a year, go make, you might make 40 grand, depending on where you're at, 40, 50 grand or something like that during that year. Save that money. And then you realize, hey, I might like, do this or, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I'll, go to college or get something else to try. But in that year, you made some money in your pocket at least. So it can't hurt to, give it at least a try or, try it for 6 months, see if you like it. If not, try something else.
Yeah. And if you don't like it, then you still have a skill that you can use. I mean, you go work for a plumber for 3 to 6 months. Like, no, you're not going to be as good as a plumber, but I bet you'd be able to fix some shit around your house.
Oh yeah, if you ever, needed a job farther down the line, you're not going to go and say you're a master plumber or anything like that, but you can at least be like, hey, maybe 5 years ago I at least did a little bit of plumbing, and at least that gives you maybe a little leg up on somebody who doesn't.
Yeah.
If the economy ever crashes or something like that, you at least got somewhat of a tangible skill that you did, 6 months of that.
Yeah. And like for me, man, like I went to college and I would give people my resume. They wouldn't even look at my grades. They wouldn't look at all that stuff. They straight just looked at the work experience. And they were like, oh yeah. Like whenever I went going into college, I had a little bit of construction experience just from working summers in high school. And they would look at it and they'd go, oh, you actually have a little bit of experience after my freshman year when most people don't really get internships. And I had a lot of offers for internships solely because I would work like 2 summers for people and learned a little bit and just kind of learned how to work. And it's all right, cool. Let's bring you on.
Oh yeah, I mean sometimes that I feel like that work experience almost helps you. It's like whatever your internships are in the summer, your sophomore, junior, and senior year almost matter as much as the classes you take and the grades you make.
Yeah, I think they matter more. And I mean, for me, I learned more from the actual field experience than I did the classroom.
Oh yeah, I mean I feel like if you like intern for a company 2 summers in a row, you can kind of, even if your grades might not be the prettiest, they can, if you've been there 2 summers, they kind of know what you can do and stuff like that, and that might lead you to a job offer that you may not have gotten if you didn't, have that work experience with that company or whatever in the summer.
Yeah.
But there's so many
So,
different ways, I guess, to go about it and get into the industry in general that there's, I guess, no one good set path. It's, you know, whatever works for you.
yeah, it's whatever's best for you, and everybody's different.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I find that cool though that you're saying that because usually when you see a 31-year-old foreman or grade foreman or uh, any skilled position, really, you see somebody that's 31 and doing that. It's typically somebody who's been doing it his whole life, and his dad had an excavation company and all that. But you're saying, no, that wasn't me, man. I didn't start this till I was 21.
No, I mean, nobody in my family, like, even like aunts, uncles, cousins. I think I'm the only cousin that didn't finish school, like college wise. Most of my family on my mom's side all worked in like the family business in an, typical like office setting. My dad sells insurance. My mom's company, they did marketing, generally. So nobody, it was just always something I liked and thought was cool. And I think, like I said, Flatiron actually just did a video for me that they're about to put out. But I said, I was always that kid in the sandbox with the Tonka toys, and now my sandbox is just bigger, and the Tonka toys are just bigger.
Yep.
But it's yeah. I mean, I guess I think if you put it, good effort, put out a good product, whatever you're, working on that day, that week, that month, or whatever, it'll get. You may not think it, but it'll get noticed, and you just keep working at it. I mean, I think there's that adage. There's I know a bunch of people about my age that are, grade foreman or a couple years older that are superintendents or assistant superintendents on jobs, big highway jobs or, a couple $100 million jobs. So I think I wish, I guess there's some of their stories got told more. Because I think it would show people that, if you do put in the work, the reward is there as far as if you want to move on up in the company, in whatever company you're at.
Yeah, man. Hey, send them this way. This is where we're like the Disney World of construction, where all your dreams come true, or all your stories get told.
Oh yeah, no, I mean there's even people, who went to college. Like we have a field engineer I think he's 25 or whatever, but he's he's smart when it comes to, being, because he's our roadway engineer. So he's smart when it comes to, all that office stuff and, all the getting us set up to, go in the field. But he's also, anytime he can jump in a machine and stuff like that, he's always trying to learn more and stuff like that. Saturdays he'll come in and just, run an excavator just to get more seat time and stuff like that. So I think there's, plenty of young people out there that are, doing well with it in the industry, no matter how they got into it.
I love that right there. What you're saying, he's going in on his time just to learn the trade because he's passionate about it and he wants to be the best. Like I think that I love that competitive edge that some people have. Just that I want to be the best. I want to be the best excavator operator. I want to be better than old Dave, who's 90 freaking years old and been doing it forever. Like, yeah, I want to learn from him. Yeah, we're all doing the same job. Yeah, we're all on the same page. We're trying to work with each other, not against each other. But still, yet, I want people to look at me and be like, yeah, this dude's the best one.
Oh yeah, I mean they called him one Saturday, and I mean he's a field engineer, I think salaried position, so he's not paid by the hour. They called him one Saturday at like 6:45 because somebody had called out, and they were just going to go over to our bar pit and just bail up dirt to get it to dry a little bit. And he was there by like 7:15 to go run a machine for he ran it until everybody shut down. We only worked 5 hours that day, but he came in for 5 hours and baled dirt, double tracks before he left. So. Or you'll see an excavator running sometimes, and you're trying to figure out like, who the hell's in that? And you'll call somebody like, hey, he's in that machine. It's, oh, it's Blake, and he's off just trying to get more seat time to learn something. And that's not even really his job to be in a machine or to learn any of that. But he still wants to learn it. So there's plenty of younger guys out there, that necessarily maybe don't post as much crap as I do online and stuff like that, but they're still doing with the same success that I am, and building a good life for themselves at a young age.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. Yeah, those are the stories that need to get told because everybody wants to say like, man, young kids are lazy or they don't want to do it. But honestly, even a young kid that's salaried, you tell him, hey, you want to come in on a Saturday and just screw around on this machine? It's like, hell yeah, I do. Hell yeah, I do. Let's go. I want to learn how to do this stuff so you guys don't think, especially a job like a field engineer, because a field engineer is the butt of all jokes on a job site. So everybody already thinks that you're just like the office bitch who sits in the trailer and gets the superintendent coffee or whatever. So it's like, hell yeah, let me come out here and learn this stuff so I'm not just a field bitch. And it makes you a lot better at your job because you actually understand how stuff works.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'll never forget the one time he came up to me and told me because at one point in our bar pit they were just ordering like an insane amount of trucks and they had one hoe in there, and he was over there timing it one day. And he comes over and he's like, I don't know why we order all these trucks because we can't load them in a fashion to where they're just sitting. He was just over there timing them one day, just seeing how many trucks we could even handle, just stuff like that. He was 24, 8 months out of college. Somebody already picked up on that stuff, and there's some smart kids out here too that way younger than me, but
I bet if somebody saw him over there with that stopwatch, though, he would have again been the butt of all jokes.
Oh yeah, but
I did that whenever I first started in like a project management position. My boss was literally like, "Well, go out to the job and like time some scrapers, time this, just kind of get some numbers and just figure, I'd do that, and people would see me timing stuff and writing it down, and I still hear about it, man. It's been 5 freaking years,
Oh yeah, and I mean, you'll hear about it, but at the end of the day, some people don't realize those little things add up over, the course of a day, a week, a month, the year of a job site. An extra, 10 degrees of rotation on an excavator or finding a more efficient path for a pan might be, 20 extra yards a day. That's 100 yards a week. That adds up over the course of a year, and you might be the butt of a joke, but you might figure out a way to, make some more money or do something in a more efficient manner.
Yeah, dude. Like if, like let's say you have trucks and they're going to make, I don't know, they're picking number 10 rounds out there and you can save 1 minute per round. That's 10 minutes per truck per day. So if you have 10 trucks out there, I mean, do the math, that's over an hour saved of drive time and labor and equipment.
Oh yeah, I mean trucks ain't cheap. On-road trucks ain't cheap, and then if you're, you have trucks sitting on one end, you got a, dozer sitting on the other end waiting for the trucks. There's more money sitting. You always try and that's the one thing I guess I've kind of learned over the past 5 months is you got to try and be as efficient as possible to keep everybody moving to where, nobody's sitting or, people are sitting as little as possible. And how can you get the most stuff done, I guess, with, I guess, the least amount of expenses as far as, how much diesel fuel you're burning, how many hours you're working and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just trying to figure out that whole big puzzle, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are some of the biggest things you've learned in the industry?
I guess the biggest, I learned this about a year ago, and it's my superintendent, well, my now superintendent Jeff that told me, and he goes, the best piece of advice I ever got. He goes, it's just dirt. He told me that one day because I used to I get so worked up over like truck drivers and stuff like that, and just be wound up by the end of the day, high strung. He looked at me one day and he goes, dude, it's just dirt. He goes, don't worry about it. If they dump it in the wrong spot, just push it. And I put that together one day, and I was like, you know what? It is just dirt. There's bigger things outside of work and stuff like that. So that was probably the biggest thing I've learned. Being, I guess, pretty detail oriented for some of the people that I've worked for, and then working for Chris. When you're on YouTube every day, you try to have your work as clean as possible because you got 500,000 inspectors watching your work and picking it apart every day, no matter what you do.
Yeah.
So
And
learning to be.
they're all the best,
Oh yeah, I'll never forget. I was talking to one of the guys who works for me now, and I was telling him about it, and I was like, yeah, they always used to get on me for leaning on a shovel while he's, digging a hole or whatever. And I was like, it's like, what the hell do you want me to do while he's got a 4 foot cut to still do? I was like, what do you want to do, jumping jacks? And I was telling the guy the story on the side of the highway, and I decided to demonstrate a jumping jack, and my superintendent's coming down 95 as I'm like mid jumping jack with my arms in the air. And 10 seconds later, my phone rings. It's like, what the hell are you doing a jumping jack? And I was, telling that story about working for Chris. But, when you have that many people, I guess, watching you, and then highway work, when you got a state inspector out there all the time, and all the locals as you're going through their yards and stuff like that, building the highway, checking everything, you learn to be extremely detail oriented in a lot of the stuff you do.
Yeah, you become extremely detail oriented, and then they still find ways to bitch about you.
Oh yeah, I mean, I guess that was my one thing when I ran a dozer. I did probably most of the finish work out there before I got my promotion, and that was the one thing is even the inspectors knew if I did it, they generally would just drive through, look at it. If it looked good, they wouldn't even get out and check it. And they wouldn't check slopes. They wouldn't put a rover on it. They would just, it looked good and just rock on. So
that's how you want to be, right? I mean, that's the best thing that you can be. Just having good quality work where they go, yeah, I mean, we'll check it, but this guy knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one thing. I guess for me, it was always I didn't want to let the people around me down either. Just like you say something's ready to go, like, hey, it's ready for inspection, or it's ready for seed, or ready, for whatever, and then somebody pulls in, hey, it's not. Like when I want them to pull in, I want my, shit to be ready and perfect. So, it's just, hey, Tim did it. Let's move on to the next thing.
Nice, dude. That's awesome to have that kind of a reputation.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it was just, like I said, I don't want to let people down around you, and people that have vouched for you to get you a job or something like that, or get you a promotion. You don't want to let those people down sometimes.
Yeah. So you have on your deal here, you want to talk about some of the misconceptions in the industry too.
So I guess my biggest one is, you hear it's always a bunch of old guys yelling at each other, or it's a bunch of people out there just yelling. And I told somebody this one time, and they said, I kind of never thought about this. I said, half the time when you hear people yelling, it's just loud out there.
Yeah.
And people can't hear. Like I could be 10 feet away from somebody next to the highway and I can't hear a word they're saying. And we'll just close cab doors and call each other on the phone. And I said, the other one is, you hear people yell. And I said, if you see it on TV when a NFL player does it or whatever, they call it passionate. But if you see it out there on a construction site, it's a bunch of old guys being assholes to each other or being an asshole to the new guy. I said, most of the guys out there or most of the girls out there, they want to put out a good product because they know it's going to be there for, as long as they're going to be alive in some way, shape, or form, that highway, that neighborhood or whatever. So they're passionate about what they do and they want everybody to carry their own weight. So it's not necessarily they're just assholes. It's people care, and not only that, it's the safety aspect of being out there, being around all this, big equipment. I don't think anybody who works out there wants to see somebody, leave in an ambulance or die out there. So, if you see somebody doing something dumb, you may just yell out of, instinct, just to be like, hey, because you want to make sure they hear you before they get hurt or, run over or something like that. And I think people always view that in a negative light. And I think there's more of a misunderstanding just because you're not involved in it all the time. I think there's a lot more, I guess, passion, and people just misconceive that yelling sometimes. But in other aspects of life, they're like, oh, I love to see that passion out of that athlete or something like that. But then you see it in, because they don't view athletics necessarily as work, but then they see it out there and they're like, oh man, they're just arguing all the time, yelling this, that, and the other. And people want stuff done right so they can put out a good product.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. In fact, I had this this foreman I used to work with whenever I first got into the asphalt industry, and he was kind of known as a guy that would like yell at people and stuff. But I always had a good relationship with him. Like him and I never had issues, and I kind of asked him one day because somebody was bitching about him, and I was like, some of these younger guys like me and the other guys, I said, you get more out of them if you didn't yell so much. He goes, well, I don't yell at him because I'm pissed off and mad. I yell at him because I can't hear shit and I can't. It's so freaking loud out here with all the equipment running.
Oh yeah. I mean, I remember one of our superintendents got complaints about him one time, and it was like we were talking about it. It's like, it's the only people who complain most of the time are the ones who just want to, screw off, not work, be on their phone all day. The people like, if you, like, I've been yelled at, plenty of times out there, and 10 minutes later, me and that person who yelled at me are perfectly fine back laughing because, we had a problem, it got discussed, and, 10 minutes later we were fine. And I think just people need to realize that it's not always just people being assholes to be assholes.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that that's just how guys are too. And we've kind of gotten away from that whole, like whenever I was in middle school and high school and stuff, you'd get in a freaking fight with the dude, you'd hit each other, you'd throw a couple punches, and then you'd be sitting laughing 5 minutes later.
Yep.
And we've gotten away from that with, I don't know, HR rules and just people getting butthurt because it's like you said, it's usually the guy who probably needs to get yelled at. They're the ones who are like, well, he's just such an asshole. And then they go and they just shit talk him to other people instead of sitting down with the guy and settling the problem the right way.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people don't want to discuss stuff face to face with the person who they're in a disagreement with. They want to try and go around them. But I guess it's just, a different age, and you just got to figure out how to work with it. I try not to be an asshole in the way I go about, if I have to say something to somebody, I'll just try to be like, hey, can you do this differently just because of this reason or whatever. I try to always give and I feel like if you give a reason behind it sometimes to, why you need them to change the way they're doing something, people are a lot more receptive than if you're just like, hey, do this way, and then just walk off.
Yeah. Yeah. A reason definitely helps. And if I can give like the biggest piece of advice I could give anybody that wants to climb the ladder in any industry, but especially construction, is settle those arguments and those disagreements face to face. Don't be passive aggressive. Don't try and weasel your way around and like send an email to this guy because he might be able to convince this guy. Just pick up the phone, call somebody, say, hey man, this is probably what we need to do. Be straightforward, be honest, be legit. And most of the time, it's not going to end in a hateful disagreement. It's going to go, oh, I didn't even think of it that way. And dude, you can move up so fast if you do that, because that's like the best way to solve a problem rather than being snaky and sleazy and trying to go around and over people.
I think it's a respect thing too.
Yeah.
Just if you can't talk to somebody who's above you or, you're equal in some way, then, I don't think you have respect for that person. And most people, some people probably aren't going to show you that respect back. And then if you're just butting heads constantly, what good are really both of you at the end of the day for the company and the job site because you're not getting anything done. You're always being spiteful to each other. Like
Yeah.
I remember hearing a story. This is from a past company I worked for, and it was on a different job, but they had I guess one of the superintendents had I think they had a bunch down. There was like 6 or 8 of them, and one of them they didn't like, and they blew a hydraulic hose on brand new asphalt they had just laid, I think that day or the day before, and they
Ooh.
called to try and just get like some sand to soak it up. And when they told him, I guess the guy who was going to bring the sand over where it was, he said something about that. Oh, that's so and so section, and just hung up the phone and like didn't bring it over for the guy. And it's just like shit like that. You're just like, you know, come on, dude. Like,
Yeah.
grow up.
Yeah.
I mean, you
Well,
might
there's
not
those
like
assholes.
somebody, but it's still your like it's still your reputation. I mean, people, especially especially nowadays with more people posting on social media, people know kind of what job site you're on. They know who you work for roughly. Like they're gonna say stuff if they drive to your job site and they see it looks like a bomb went off or something like that. Like take some pride in your stuff, and you may not like the person working next to you on a personal level, but you got to work with them, deal with it for 10 hours a day, and complain when you go home.
Yeah. And what I've learned too is those assholes, they don't last. It doesn't matter how good of an operator they are. It doesn't matter how much they quote unquote, the boss loves them. It doesn't matter. Like I've worked with some serious assholes in my life. And granted, they might stick around for a couple years, but they phase out. They find a way to get themselves fired, or they eventually are so unhappy and miserable that they end up quitting and doing something else. You just got to kind of stick through the assholes and don't hold resentment, man. If you have resentment and you're going home and you're stewing about it and you're thinking about it in your head and you're waking up and you're like, oh, I got to go deal with that motherfucker Dave today, piece of shit. It it just makes you lose your own happiness, and then you can't deal with them at all because you already have a preconceived deal in your head that day that they suck.
Yeah, I mean that thing like when I said like it was just dirt, that kind of in the relation of everybody around me, it's it's just dirt and the people associated with it. Like at the end of the day, you know, life goes on whether stuff happens or not. So just deal with it and move on because you know think like even some of the people on our job say the job's going to get built. So, you might as well try and do it as, happy as you can and, not have as many, limit your bad days, try to enjoy the people you're around and stuff like that. But
Yeah. Yeah, your dog agrees with you.
I don't know what
He's
somebody's
like, hell
parked
yeah,
out
keep
front.
on preaching.
He's like, it's past your bedtime.
He's trying to join the conversation.
Sorry about it. There's somebody out front, but
You're good.
no, he likes to move a little dirt too every now and then. He'll
Yeah.
come in the mornings with his snout just covered in dirt, and I'm like, dude, what do you do? He's got a little excavation project going on under the deck right now. Not really sure what he's got going on under there, but there's something.
Yeah, my dog's big into dirt moving too. She'll
So
move
yeah,
a couple yards in a day.
oh yeah, he's not a big hole digger in the middle of the yard, at least when I cut the grass. But there's something going on under the deck. But as long as it stays under there, I'm fine with it.
That's cool. Yeah. So I'm sure you work a lot, but what do you do outside of work?
Play a lot of golf. Um, hang out with my buddies. Like I said, I've got like 4 or 5 buddies around Raleigh. So, we'll get together, go out to eat, go out to bars, different stuff like that. And then some buddies in Charlotte. So, we get together, we just do like guys trips where we'll just go to the beach and rent a big house, do stuff like that. Still play a little airsoft every now and then.
Hell yeah.
Uh, big Philadelphia sports fan. So, Sundays now, watching the Eagles, Phillies, stuff like that. But, just hang out with my buddies a lot. Typically play a round of golf on the weekends. So,
There you go. There you go.
but
Nothing wrong with that at all, man.
yeah, I mean, I'm one of those people. I try to avoid working as many Saturdays as possible. I mean, if I have nothing going on, like, and I'm just, I'm gonna be at the house just screwing off, I'll go in and work, because I'm hourly, so I'll get a few extra hours. But if I got something going on, I'm not coming in.
Yeah, man. And that's good to have those boundaries too. I mean, and it's good to have the option. It sounds like you kind of get the option most of the time of, I mean, if I want to, I can, but I don't necessarily have to, because I think so many people, especially that old school mentality of like, I want to climb the ladder and be top of the company, just climb up that corporate ladder or whatever. It's good to have those boundaries and just take some time for yourself. I don't think enough people do that. I think people in our age group do, but not industry as a whole. Industry as a whole is like, there's work to be done. We better do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think even if you get to a certain point of working so many hours a week, you're really not getting much done. You're just almost wasting time and stuff like that. And, I think if you work more than like 10 hours a day, those last couple hours, you're not doing a whole lot. Most people are already sidetracked because, their friends are getting off, their wives or girlfriends are getting off. So you're not even really focused. So I try and like 5:30 at the absolute latest. I try and be done most days.
That's
'Cause,
good.
yeah, I mean, our people start at 7. We start at 6:30 some days and 7 the other days. We got like a supervisor meeting Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So, but I try not to let work consume my life. But also, I mean, some extra money never hurt anybody if I'm not doing anything. So,
Yeah. Yeah, you got to find that balance, right? And everybody's balance is different. That is funny
yeah,
you say that, because that was a piece of advice that I heard early on in my career from an old guy's. He's like, man, he said, I've been in this business a long time. And he said, 10 hours is really as much as a guy can give. He said, sometimes you can get a little more out of them. But he said, after 10 hours, it's like you're saying, they get sidetracked. He said, that's when people get hurt. That's when it just shit starts going wrong. He said, people got to rest and they gotta recover for the next day.
yeah. I mean, somebody told me, I heard it a while back. It was you work to live, you don't live to work.
Right.
So I try to always kind of remember that. And, like I said, I don't mind coming in if I'm not doing something, but, if I got something planned that weekend, whether, summers we go to my buddy's lake house or stuff like that, or if my parents come down to visit, I hope they can respect the fact that I work 5 days that week and, put in good effort or, if we got rained out a day, sorry, but, I hope they can respect that. It was all right. I know I always try and, give them enough notice. And I know this year I burned up some extra, more than just my PTO between Con Expo. I had a couple weddings, a bachelor party to go to down in Florida. So, and they were always good about, I just made sure my work was lined out. My superintendent knew where I was at and what I was going to try and get done over those 2 days. And, if anybody needed anything, I always had my phone on me and stuff like that. So just, they were always pretty good about respecting that because, Con Expo, I was gone for a week. So,
Yeah, that's cool that it was like that. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. You gotta. I always tell people that too. Like I had one guy that I work with, and man, he'll work all the freaking time. I mean, he'd work every day for 12 hours a day if he could. And part of it's because he loves it, and part of it's because he wants the money. But I mean, after a certain point, you're giving all your overtime to the government. And then also, what's the point of having all this money if you don't ever take off and enjoy it?
Yeah. That's kind of where, I enjoy what I do, but it's not everything that I do. I
Yeah.
like, going to play golf, going on trips with my buddies, stuff like that. And, I want to be able to, work hard to be able to afford it, but I also want to, you know, be able to have the time to go do the stuff too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's important to remember for everybody. I think everyone needs that reminder sometimes to slow her down a little bit.
Yeah, especially, with everything that's, you see on the news and stuff nowadays, just try and relax and, just get away from work and kind of take a chill pill almost, I guess.
Yeah.
Just, but yeah, you know, try not to overdo it, but also got to make a living.
Yeah. So what advice would you have for anybody that's getting into the industry or wants to get into the industry and they want to maybe move up a little bit and kind of get into that foreman superintendent role or even a different route, I guess. But just anybody that wants to make a difference and climb the ladder a little bit.
I guess at least in, the grade world and kind of what I do is if you use this and kind of translate it to the broad spectrum of everything we do is you're never above a shovel. You're never above doing any task that you've once done, whether it's putting up silt fence or anything like that. Everybody's been part of a bucket brigade where you're chucking mud up the hill that blew out from the blew out through the silt fence. It sucks, but, just remember that you're never above doing that. And even when you start moving up and, you're in, whether you start running a roller, start running a haul truck, getting a dozer, getting an excavator, just remember you're never above those tasks. And, at the end of the day, it all pays the same.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know many companies that if you go do erosion control because it's too muddy, they're going to go dock your operator's pay. I mean, I know all our guys get the same money, and so, most of mine don't care to go do it because, my, best operator, you can run, excavator hoe, dude's awesome. And his excavator went down the one day, and I said, hey, man, do you mind just, go walking along the silt fence and just wherever it fell down, can you just zip tie it back up for me? He's like, yeah, man, I don't care. Just having that attitude of you're never above doing any task out there is probably the biggest thing that'll get you constantly moving up. And people notice
Just get
it.
the job done.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, get the job done. Try to be a decent person while you're doing it. Get the job done. You're never above anything, and I think people notice that. And you may think people don't, and you may get frustrated with it at times, but people do notice it. And hey, stop. People do notice that type of stuff, and eventually you will get to where you need to just stay the course, I guess.
Yeah. I completely agree. And I know an operator too. He's in his mid 60s, and dude, he'll dig at the holes. He'll put a manhole in. He'll get in the freaking manhole and do all the work inside of it. He'll be putting blocks on old ones. He'll be getting out, getting in the mud, and I mean he's old, has some joints that are barely moving, and I mean he's still doing all this stuff. I mean he's got that mentality of like he's not above a shovel. I mean he's one of the best.
Oh yeah, the guy who actually got me when I went to Flatiron, Kevin, he's probably one of the better operators most people know. He's in a lot of the Facebook groups with all those guys. Dude can run anything from a production hoe to, run a fine grade motor grader, set an ABC. And I'll never forget, he had a torn meniscus in his knee. He had it for years, and finally he went and got it looked at like last winter. And a couple of days before his surgery, he's still hobbling out there. I called him peg leg for the last couple of weeks. And he would go up to the dump truck, get a stone ticket, come back and spot him in a spreader box. And there's like a 20-year-old kid just sitting there watching him, and Kevin's fucking just hobbling back and forth the whole time, getting the stone ticket. And then a couple times the kid would get the stone ticket, and he still wouldn't even like tear it up for Kevin so we could give the inspector their copy. And I'm just and he did it for 10 hours that day, put down like 2,000 tons or whatever, and he's just hobbling the whole day. And it's just like when you see stuff like that, if you can mimic that when you're a young kid and you see that, you'll definitely go places.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, man. You just do what you can.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, the job's got to get done, and you might be an operator, you might be a foreman, but if you're the only person there, you got to do it. It's got to get done.
And I've not hired talented operators before because they've said to me, I won't touch a shovel. I've had multiple. They'll tell me, and I know their skills. I've seen them work. I've seen them on other job sites. Then you get talking to them. It's, I'll come work for you, but I ain't going to touch a shovel. And then they want top pay. And it's like, well, dude, that ain't how it works.
Yeah. Or they'll say something about their hours that week. They're like, man, my hours were low that week. And it's like, well, some other people did, erosion control for a day and a half and got those 15 hours you lost, or, you don't want to go sit in a training session because it's boring. You want to pluck your eyes out. Yeah. Nobody really wants to sit through some of those things, but it gets you hours. Everybody's probably taking OSHA 10 and stuff like that. It's not it's not fun to sit through and listen to that class. Everybody hates it. But you know what? If it's a rain week, there's, there's 12 hours probably by the time you take breaks and everything like that. You know, just don't be above getting those hours. And then, when the machine works there, you'll be in the machine. And even when, you're doing erosion, there's only that one guy in the excavator. It's usually that dude who for a few years was down, always chucking buckets of mud up there, always doing the crappy work. And now he's the one when, you're throwing mud up the hill, he's the one sitting in that excavator seat because, he's the one who earned it essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. He's paid his dues.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That mentality won't get you anywhere, especially if you're young. I mean, especially if you're 21, 22, 23, and you're like, yeah, I can run anything, but I won't touch a shovel. Then it's like, well, see, man.
Yeah. I mean, to me, at that point, you're absolutely worthless. Like you said, you could be as good as anybody, but if you won't, if you won't touch a shovel to me, you won't touch a grease gun, you won't fuel your machine, you may not clean your windows. I was always big on keeping a cab where you can pretty much eat off the floor. If you don't have that, if you can't do the little things, you'll never do the big things.
Yeah. Yeah. That's completely true, man. I mean, it's the details that matter. That was another piece of advice I got early on was, man, you worry about the details and the big picture takes care of itself.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure it's all in line.
Yeah, I mean, if you have your, shit in a row before you start, whether it's your day, your project, or whatever, day seems to go a lot easier than if you're always reacting to stuff and versus if you plan ahead.
Yeah. And it's like you said too, whenever you develop that mentality, it's kind of an ego that, oh, I'm better than everybody, I don't want to do this. It really what it's showing is that you're lazy.
Mm-hmm.
You might be a skilled operator, you might be really good at it, but you're lazy. You don't want to get in and out. Nobody who said that to me has been skinny. I can tell you that much. They just want to sit in their cab and eat fucking donuts and burritos and grade roads, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of, and I think, those people, I hate to say it, but like I was saying with the cabs and everything like that, and even their work, it kind of shows like, their road might be good enough, to move on to let the grader go have it, or, the state might say their ditch looks good, but then some people will come behind it and I could sit there and pick people's work apart all the time. I mean, I'll never forget, like I finished a whole section of ditch line and I told them, I said, I'm going to come in early and walk it in. And I had most of it walked in by the time, everybody got going. And then they're like, hey, just start grading the next section. We'll get another dozer over here to finish walking it in. And he started on the low end, went to the high end, and the track all the way back out, and put a horizontal track mark down the whole thing. I'm just sitting there looking at it. I took a picture of it, and sent it to him. I said, this is why I have trust issues. I said, that looks like crap now. I said, he did a great job walking in and then puts a horizontal road down the whole top of it and then twists and turns and comes on out. And I'm just sitting, I was like the little things like that, you might be the best operator, but if you can't do the little things like never being above a shovel, I don't think you'll ever have that perfectionist mindset that I think, at the end of the day, a lot of people have to have out here to really produce a good product.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to put it in perspective, the other day I was on a job and we were shorthanded because where I was at, our main asphalt crew was laying asphalt. Well, we had a little spot at a tie-in that we had to do a little bit of diamond grinding on a job site we just finished, which I hate even admitting that on air. It's like, we had a diamond grind a spot, because we left a bump in the road, but I guess it happens or whatever. What it was, the truck turned on it while it was hot and we couldn't fix it. So I had to diamond grind this little spot, so whatever. We had a very well-paid mechanic who was running a stop and slow sign. We had a truck driver who, again, paid pretty well, running another stop and slow sign. We had our general superintendent and myself out there directing traffic and fog sealing the road and stuff like that. And it's like, nobody that was out there doing that job, quote unquote, deserves to be in that position or should be in that position. That should be the grunts. If, I'm saying that as I roll my eyes, that do that. But again, you can't be above it, those guys were out doing more important stuff, and they were more valuable out doing the hard, high production stuff. So we pulled off long enough to get over there and do the dinky little stuff that just needed to be done.
Oh yeah, I mean we had a day, I think it was like a month ago, and it rained the day before, and they told us came from like somebody above our superintendents, just have everybody stay home and just have all the foremen come in. Then we come in, and they're like, hey, 10 stone trucks are coming. There was no fabric laid out, nothing ready for them. And so it's just foremen and superintendents over there fucking just rolling fabric, stapling as quick as we can. And then just, an army of stone trucks come rolling in, and one foreman was in the dozer just, getting the stone down, and the rest of us are just trying to stay ahead of him, pushing it out. And then we're like, shit, we're about out of spots that we had graded out. So then we're another dozer ahead of him, me trying to grade out some more so they can roll out more fabric. And it's just like, we should have had operators out there, but we didn't. It was the situation we were dealt, and you know what? We made the best of it. We got it done at the end of the day. But like you said, it's not always the people who necessarily it's their job to be out there, but they're in that position. You just got to get it done.
Yeah.
No matter what. Just don't be above the work.
Yeah, you could have all been like, well, have them stockpile it over there because we're not fucking doing it.
Yeah. I'll say dump it at the end. We'll knock it down tomorrow.
Yeah.
But, you got to get it done.
Yeah, man. That's exactly it. If you don't get anything else from this podcast, just get that, don't be above anything. And the people that aren't above anything are the people that get picked first. They're the ones that get picked for the best jobs, not the worst jobs. And they're the ones who get the best laborers because everybody likes to work with them, and the bosses respect them, and they can say, I want those guys on my crew. And they're also contributing to the future generation by setting an example of, hey, it doesn't matter how good you are or what you can do. It's just, will you do it?
Yep.
I mean, nothing we do is inherently that hard. I mean, yeah, there's stuff that requires skill, but you can buckle down and learn it, but you got to be willing to do anything.
Mm-hmm. If you put in that time and that effort, like anything, it comes.
Yeah. Well, man, I know you're probably about ready to start wrapping up so you can get to bed since you're an hour ahead of me. What's the dirtiest job you've ever had?
Probably. So this was when I was like 16 or 17. It was my old 8th grade science teacher. He had like a little kind of landscape business on the side too, and one of our contracts was one of the oil refineries just outside of Philadelphia, like cutting all the weeds, spraying all the weeds, and we'd have to go. You'd wear these one fire retardant suits, and they were bright orange. You looked like a damn prisoner, and you'd have to go weed whack some of these spots, and you'd like hit mud and just spray yourself with like mud that was just contaminated with all sorts of gas and stuff like that, and you were covered in sweat from that damn suit when it's 95 degrees and all the heat from refining gas, and then you're spraying yourself with this nasty ass mud, or the guy next to you hits something and sprays you with it. And that was probably because you had the heat, you had the mud and all the smell of that. It was probably one of the worst things. I mean, doing sanitary sewer wasn't always the best, but you got used to the smell after a little bit. You never really got that stuff on you, so
yeah,
that was never that bad. But just dealing with the heat and then getting sprayed with oily mud was probably one of the. It wasn't bad. I still didn't hate it, but it was definitely you were always dirty at the end of the day.
That's a thankless job too. Those guys that weed eat around refineries and stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean, everybody who worked there, we all knew each other because there was like a couple kids who were in high school with me, and then their dads who were like teachers or stuff like that. So we'd go to school all day, see each other, and then go out there and work for 5 or 6 hours after school. And it sucked, but at least you were with, like I said, good people, and there was always something hilarious happening, or you'd see something dumb, or so you tried to make it enjoyable, even though it was kind of not the most ideal job.
Funny story about those weed eating crews about refineries. We have an oil refinery here where I live. It's one of the bigger employers. And I was driving past it the other day and those guys were weed eating just outside the gates and they were right by the sidewalk. And I was driving, all of a sudden I heard this loud thud and I was like, man, I think that dude just kicked a rock up and hit the side of my truck. So I pulled over and then I looked, I feel my truck get real breezy and it was this big ass chunk of concrete went right through my back window. I was like,
Ooh.
what the hell? Like, I didn't hear the glass shatter or anything. It was wild.
Jesus. Yeah, I had something hit my foot in one time. I still don't know what it was to this day, but I could not walk after it. The next day I woke up. I never broke anything or anything like that, but it was just like a one day like real bad bruise where I could put no weight on it. No clue what hit my foot, but it hit like the side of my boot and it hurt pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Actually,
My buddy did playing golf one time, hit me in the side of the foot.
Ooh.
Same kind of deal. The next day you're like, ow, I can't move my foot.
Yeah, I had a chunk of asphalt hit my foot about a month or so ago, just spotting a load, and I was on the phone too, and just standing kind of off to the side of the hill, and the chunk rolled off the pile and came left and went right over the top of my boot. And I was fine right when it happened, walked around, and by the time I got home, I was driving home with my left foot because it was my right foot that got ran over, and it hurt. That was not a good time, but like I said, day after, the next day sucked, and then the day after that, I was fine. So
yeah,
you got to be tough when you're stupid.
Was it cold asphalt? Was it a chunk of cold asphalt?
It was. So we just demoed the bridge, and we were pulling the bridge embankment back to dig for the new MSC wall, and we discovered the asphalt was 26 inches thick because I guess that when they raised the bridge, they just kept putting asphalt in instead of digging it up and putting dirt in. So we were, moving that out, digging that all up because originally the contract was we were going to leave it in place and just rip it and then just fill over top of it. But once it was 26 inches thick, they asked us to remove some of it that we hadn't already covered up with dirt. So
pretty hard to rip that.
Yeah, he went up there with a 12M and brand new shanks on the back, and he had a picture of the shanks, and then by the end of the day, they were literally had to be replaced, and he got down maybe 3-4 inches.
Jeez, dude.
Had the whole thing locked, all-wheel drive locked in, and couldn't do a thing with it. But he's like, I don't think I got through it, and then we're digging out and pulling out 26-inch chunks of asphalt.
That's thick asphalt, man. You don't hear about asphalt that thick on anything.
So I was getting about a month before that. We were digging the one day, moving a topsoil pile, and somebody had buried 2 signposts, like big H piles. So we pull on those, and we find a concrete pad. So we start hammering on it one day, and it didn't really want to budge. It ended up being about 5 feet thick. It was probably 30 feet wide, 5 feet thick by about 20 feet long. It had rebar, half-inch rebar, a foot down in it, and then all the way in the bottom of it. We hammered on it for like 60 hours before we were able to get it up. And a ditch went straight through the thing, so it had to come out. And then there was this big like half-inch piece, like rectangle of steel plate that they, I guess, welded up, filled the whole center with concrete, but put steel plate in between it. And so it'd be like concrete, steel plate, more concrete. And we're just sitting there, we're like, what the hell was this thing? And it's just right in our way. And, everybody's just looking at it, and, we're just beating on it, and just getting nowhere.
Did you figure out what it was?
I mean, we could never exactly figure it out because we saw the signpost, but like the rebar wasn't tied into where like the H piles went. So we figured it really wasn't a footer for them, and they came out really easily, the H piles. But we don't know if it was part of like a scale or something like that, or because it was an old truck stop. We do know that, but it wasn't like we could never really figure it out. Like as far as like a design of, because I would assume that like the rebar would tie into those H piles if it was trying to hold up the sign, but it was just, it was a fucking huge ass piece of concrete. And then a month later, we go and see this 26-inch thick asphalt. And I said, I'm getting real good at finding thick pieces of aggregate-based product out here.
Thick shit, man. Golly, dude.
Yeah, then I just got done loading out
They were like,
contaminated.
we're going to build stuff to not move out here.
Yep. And then I just got done loading out contaminated soil for a few days that smelled like straight diesel fuel. So I'm finding all sorts of fun stuff.
So are you like building your road over what was an old truck stop?
Yeah, they're moving a service road over, so it's through like the old parking lot of where a truck stop. They said it. I mean, it's been closed for I don't know how long, 20
Yeah.
years, but they said the diesel tanks and stuff leaked for, probably the whole time that truck stop was open, and then whatever all sorts of fun stuff they had when they were building it, and while it was operational. So yeah, it was. We were digging one day and bucket of dirt came out and it just smelled like straight diesel fuel. And we're like, so we had a few days of loading that stuff out and sending it to. I know it went to a contaminated site, but I think it went to the incinerator.
Oh man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
that
was.
sucks when you start hitting that stuff. That's a whole different ball game right there that you got to deal with.
Paperwork for every truckload. It was.
Oh yeah.
I got real good at signing my name, printing my name, putting the date down, and remembering truck numbers. But it's one of those things. It is what it is. You got to do it. So.
Yeah. Yeah, that sucks.
But.
Well,
Yeah.
well, cool, man. Well, I think it's a good place to wrap up. I'm sure we
Yeah,
could
man.
talk about cool projects and crazy shit underground all day long, but
Oh yeah. But no, I appreciate you having me on, man. It's
yeah,
been
man,
a
I
good time.
appreciate you
First
coming.
time doing a podcast, so.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's good. So, anyways, everybody, thanks for listening. Where can people follow you at?
So I guess the best way is probably Instagram, which is my last name. If you just search Tuoni and then it's a bunch of IS's after, that's a story for another day. I post on LinkedIn some too, which is just my name. I think it's Timothy Tuoni on there. It's probably the best two places. If you ever have any questions about anything, shoot me a message on there. I'm trying to do my best to respond in decent, timely manner. But if you ever want anything to ask me, feel free to reach out in one way or another.
Cool. Instagram and LinkedIn. If you guys are new here, follow us at Dirty and Driven. If you like the show, be sure to give it a 5-star review. If you don't like the show, then I don't know why you're still listening. So, all right, guys. See you later.